neighborhoods in Queens, and I'm joined by Senator Joe Addabbo, who also represents communities in Queens, as well as Senator Jose Peralta. We will hear from both of them shortly. I want to thank you for coming here today to our press conference about how homelessness is out of control in our city. At the end of last week, the mayor patted himself on the back and said that his administration had reduced the homeless population. But the truth is, the population is at an all-time high, and his spending in the Department of Homeless Services has increased by nearly $300 million. The truth is, the homeless population is out of control. In February, after a family was murdered in a hotel shelter, the mayor said, and I quote, "The goal is to use hotels less and less, and eventually stop using hotels altogether." The mayor is far from achieving his goal, as the number of homeless families living in hotels has more than doubled since he made that announcement. And then, this August, we first hear the administration's proposal to convert a Maspeth Holiday Inn into a homeless shelter for adult families. Housing families in hotels, units without kitchens, is against the law. And that is why myself and Senator Addabbo have filed a lawsuit against the mayor and the Department of Homeless Services. Since we filed that lawsuit, details on this proposal have been anything but clear. The city said the owner of the Holiday Inn approached them about converting their hotel into a shelter. The owner of the Holiday Inn said they do not want to turn their hotel into a shelter. The law department, the city of New York, approached my office and said DHS wants to withdraw their proposal. And then DHS changed its mind once again. This is a clear example of how the de Blasio administration does not know what they're doing. It's clear the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. Last week, the City Council had a hearing of another example of mismanagement from this administration. The Rivington House fiasco, in which the administration threw away over $100 million. Again and again, it does not appear that this administration knows what it's doing. The de Blasio administration last week said his policies have prevented 7,000 people from entering the shelter system. But when he took office, the homeless population was 53,000. And now it has peaked at 60,000. Just look at the chart here. The numbers are going up and up and up. This is a 7,000 person increase. It is certainly not a decrease. The city has existing contracts with legal cluster homeless shelters. These are apartments and buildings which are in danger of being lost. That is 11,000 people who are at risk of being evicted from their homes because of faulty plans this administration has. The bottom line is, hotel conversions should not be an option when creating shelter capacity. Not only is it illegal in New York City, it is inadequate and wrong. As your elected officials here today, we will not stand for it. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Senator Joe Addabbo to come up and speak.
Thank you, Councilmember Crowley. Good morning, everyone, and it's a pleasure to stand here with my colleague from Queens, Senator Peralta, as we have worked together on this issue of homelessness, the crisis of homelessness in our borough and throughout the city, how we're failing to really help these people who are in need, and that is really why we're here today. To mention that the failed policies of this administration are not working for the people who are truly in need and their families. As we are mindful, there are over 20,000 children in the homeless shelter system. And so what can we do as we go forward? We all understand that, this current administration spends $1.7 billion to the Department of Homeless Services. And that's even after a revamping of this department, and still not able to address this issue that is continuing to rise. This failed policy has to change. Now, I have some suggestions. Unfortunately, these suggestions have fallen on deaf ears at this point on the mayor's administration, and we're hopeful that changes today. Because there are alternatives out there, alternatives to whole housing or warehousing people in a hotel setting. Let's be mindful what that means. 200 individuals warehoused in a hotel with no kitchens, no public transportation, minimal services, in a prison-like setting. The homeless shelter that Councilmember Crowley mentioned in Maspeth is proposed to have a guard on every floor, metal detectors, metal wands, 24-hour surveillance, a curfew. That's not how you help someone. That's not how you help families get back on their feet. That's putting them in a prison-like setting. It's not right. Our people deserve better. Our communities deserve better. And why have we seen such frustration and anger throughout the city, certainly in Queens? We have never seen it before with any other administration dealing with the homeless situation. There's a lack of communication by this administration. The de Blasio administration continues to work with the elected officials who are willing to help. Now, how can we help? We have suggestions. We should have been called into City Hall, told of the crisis, and asked to work throughout the boroughs, all 5 boroughs, to find appropriate spots, appropriate housing for these individuals. There are other ways, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we heard of another good colleague of mine, Andy Hevesy. Andrew Hevesy has a roughly $500 million plan. His plan to keep people in their homes. The home stability support. It's a good, credible plan. Keeps people in their homes with rent subsidies. $500 million. The governor comes out with a $2 billion memorandum of understanding to help homeless individuals throughout the state. These are 2 credible plans that have to be looked at. Unfortunately, it's going to take a little time for both these plans to be implemented. We need more immediate plans and policies put in place to help these people who are homeless. So first, let's look at our vacant land. We have many city-owned properties, over 1,000, throughout the city, not counting state-owned or federally owned land. We have city-owned properties, vacant land throughout the city. We can look to build modular homes in less than 2 months or so throughout these vacant lands. Now, this is not my idea. Fiorello, Homes for the Homeless, a program, a group of people getting together with this idea, forwarding this idea to the administration without hearing whether this is a good idea, whether this administration is even considering this idea. Again, a good idea, a credible idea falling on deaf ears on this administration. But building modular homes. This idea reminded me about the GIs that were returning in World War II and needed housing, and how the country at that time built these modular homes or this type of shelters that had all the amenities, kitchens, bathrooms, bedrooms, and they built them quickly because they used ingenuity and they used creative determination to resolve a homeless issue back then in the 50s. And we can't do it today? Certainly we can. Foreclosed homes. You look around on the internet, there's about 16,000, roughly, 16,000 foreclosed homes that the city could look at. It's cheap, lower market rate homes that they could buy and solve, again, at least part of the homeless situation. Ask the governor. What a novel idea if the mayor could ask the governor. We have a crisis here in New York City. Can we find other places with a better housing stock, a more affordable housing stock throughout the state, where maybe the cost of living is lower than it is here in New York City? But I'm not too confident that this mayor could call upon our governor for assistance. And now we're not utilizing the whole state, because this is a people problem. It's not just for New York City. This is trying to help individuals. We've also asked the Commissioner Banks, the DHS, reconsider cluster sites. We know there have been issues with the cluster site and cluster program and apartments in the past. Well, let's not just discard it. Let's fix the problems that have plagued maybe the cluster program in the past. But keeping people in their home and finding them permanent housing that has the amenities that they need, that they can transition into permanent housing. Right now, we have a policy of warehousing people in a hotel thinking that it's transitional. It's only for a couple of months, and they'll get back on their feet, and they'll go to real housing somewhere. It's not working. We could just point to the Pan Am Hotel in Queens. where those residents have stayed there for many months, much longer than the city expected. And that's the poster child of why these hotels are not a good idea. Pan Am Hotel. It's not a good setting, it's not transitional housing, it's not helping the homeless individual, and it's a bad policy that has to change. So, we are here to offer assistance, but we can't have an administration that doesn't listen. Back on September 15th, I sent a 2-page letter to the mayor with points of suggestions, asking for answers. September 15th, still have not gotten an answer to this letter from no one in the administration. This administration can't shut the doors to the electeds or to the people of our community who are very frustrated about this failed policy. This administration cannot shut their eyes or their ears or the doors to hearing us about credible ideas and solutions how to resolve this growing homeless issue for the sake of our communities, more importantly, for the sake of the homeless individuals who truly need the help. It is my pleasure, my honor to introduce my colleague and governor, Senator Peralta.
Thank you. State Senator Jose Peralta. I represent the 13th Senatorial District in Queens. You probably better know it as Flushing Meadow Park and City Field and LaGuardia Airport. But good morning. I first want to thank Senator Addabbo, Councilwoman Crowley for putting this press conference together. And I want to extend my thanks to others who participated in putting this press conference together. Because undisputably, the homeless situation is a crisis. And it's not getting any better. As a matter of fact, it's just getting worse day by day. And part of the problem, not the solution, is right behind us right here, City Hall. City Hall under Giuliani, City Hall under Bloomberg, and now City Hall under de Blasio. And all the efforts, all the money, all the plans these administrations put in place have a common denominator: shoving homeless shelters down our community's throats and not working on a viable solution. And if anyone complains, oh, get this, if anyone complains, here comes the administration saying that we don't care about poor people, we don't care about the homeless, that our communities don't care about New Yorkers going through some bad times. In fact, sometimes they even go as far as creating videos. Nothing could be further from the truth. Of course we care. Of course we know there's a tremendous need to provide a roof for the less fortunate New Yorkers. I said it many times before, and I'll say it again. Anyone is a paycheck away from becoming homeless. But the way this administration and this Department of Homeless Services is handling this crisis is nothing but a mess. Warehousing homeless New Yorkers is not a solution. Converting hotels into shelters is not a solution. Homeless shelters and proposed locations for shelters are popping up everywhere in Queens. In my district, we recently found out that the de Blasio administration decided to house homeless families in the Holiday Inn Hotel in Corona. Now, did the administration notify us? Of course not. That is why they do their best to ignore community concerns. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for your transparency. Letting the community know and involving the community is the first good step to seeking solutions for this crisis. And what's happening at the Holiday Inn is eerily similar to what occurred at the Westway Hotel in Astoria. There, DHS moved in about 40 homeless families into that hotel and was later transformed into a permanent shelter housing over 121 families. Then, if that wasn't enough, came the landing. When our officers reached out to DHS, asking the city agencies for the plans of the facility, after someone from the press reached out to us, and I couldn't believe that that was going to be a conversion. So I told the person, let me call you back. I reached out to DHS, and DHS said, no way, Senator, there's no way, there are no plans for that to be converted into a homeless shelter. And what happened 2 months later? 2 months later, just a week before it opened as a permanent homeless shelter, DHS came to the district and told us about the conversion of the hotel into a shelter. No community input, yet again. Folks, lying is in the DNA of DHS. That is what happens on a daily basis. And now we're keeping a close eye to see what occurs at the Holiday Inn in Corona. I don't trust DHS. I don't trust the administration because they can simply just come to us and say, hey, we have a problem. We have an issue. Help us spread the word. Help us move forward. Help us with the community. Because we all know that the community immediately will stand up and say, not in my backyard, but help us. But instead, they tell us no. Instead, they say, don't worry about it. Tell the press it's not going to happen. And then we look like fools when we tell the press it's not going to happen because we hear it from a credible source. And that credible source happened to lie to us. So please, we're calling on the administration to step up their game and really change what they're doing here. Homeless New Yorkers need a place to stay, but not at the cost of burning communities already limiting public services. In my district, we have at least 5 permanent homeless shelters. And just a few blocks out, there's also what Senator Addabbo mentioned, the Pan Am shelter. We all know the problems that occurred there. We need to tackle this problem at its root. And a viable solution is a real plan of affordable housing. Whether it's the governor's plan, whether it's Assemblyman Hevesey's plan, we need to ensure that there is a solution. For too long, people blame the homeless situation in a bad job market, on high unemployment rates, lack of jobs. Well, guess what? Unemployment rates are decreasing. The job market is improving, and the number of homeless New Yorkers continues to rise. We need a major overhaul. We need an overreaching solution that has to come from all of us. And that's why we're here today, to call on the mayor to be part of this process instead of alienating us. Because we as elected representatives have the voice of the people who elect us. And why not come to us as a partner and say, we want to sit down with you? But I guess City Hall knows best. I guess City Hall is best to just put up videos and attack protesters who want to be part of the solution, but yet we're not invited to sit at the table. So today we're here, I'm here to stand with my fellow colleagues to say we need a solution to this problem. It's increasing. Let's find a solution together. DHS, City Hall, do not allow this to go down as part of your legacy, Mr. Mayor. Do not, because we need solutions. The homeless individuals, the families need solutions. Our communities need solutions. Do not sidestep us, because that's why you continue to see these marches and these protests, because you're continuing to sidestep us. The process, folks. It's all about the process. Include us in it. Let us be helpful. We're trying to reach out, and whether it's through a letter that has not been answered, whether it's through protests, whether it's through phone calls that go ignored, whether it's through, hey, just a simple question, is it coming into my neighborhood? And then lying to us. That needs to be fixed. In fact, let me tell you, the Holiday Inn Hotel in Corona, it was through a constituent who came to my office and said, this is what we're hearing. We called them and we asked, do you need to inform us whether you have homeless people there? And they said, well, there has to be a certain threshold before we inform the elected official. Oh, what is the threshold? Oh, it has to reach 40%. Oh, so what you're saying is that there are existing homeless people in the Holiday Inn. Yes, but technically we could not inform you until we reach that 40%. Oh, how do you determine the 40%? Well, we divide the number of families that are there by the rooms. Can you give us a number of families? Can you give us a number of rooms? We did the math. It was over 40%. And you still didn't inform us. And then we find out that once we get this information, the week before, the Department of Buildings labeled that Holiday Inn as part of the DHS program. Just a week before. Now, when were they going to let us know? Again, it's about letting us know, give us information so we can be part of the solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Senator Peralta, Senator Addabbo. I'd just like to remind folks who saw this on Friday, last week, September 29th, the administration released this press release saying that there are 7,000 fewer people in homeless shelters today because of the work that they've done. We're saying today that is not true. The numbers don't lie, and they keep going up and up and up and up. Don't fool us, don't fool New Yorkers. Next, I'd like to introduce my colleague, City Council Member Barry Grudenchik.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I'm a little late. It's a long way from Eastern Queens. We're working on domestic violence efforts as well this morning. I'm here to hit on, I only heard Senator Peralta's remarks, but what he said is so true, and I've been in and around government for almost 3 decades now, and when you lose the community, you lose the battle. So when you don't tell us what's going on, and I had a similar situation out in my district at the very, very edge of the city of New York in Eastern Queens, where we had to find out from the residents who live behind the 2 hotels that are being used as shelters that they were being used. And it's never a good thing that when folks like us, elected officials, don't hear from the mayor's office or from his subordinates that things are going on in our community that we don't know about. So that's when the rumors start, that's when the stories begin, and you're fighting against the ghost at that point. Liz is right. The numbers keep going up and up and up. The city is a very, very generous city. We're spending over $1 billion just on homeless services. That doesn't include all the other efforts that we have for housing, affordable housing. I grew up in affordable housing. I grew up in the New York City Housing Authority development, Common houses. More than anybody, I get what it is to live in safe and secure and decent and affordable housing. But the numbers are going in the wrong direction. I have been meeting with Assemblyman Hevesy, who is the chair of the Social Services Committee, and with some of my colleagues here, and we're going to be pushing very hard to ensure that his plan, which would take the 8 programs that right now are used to combat homelessness into one plan. The state's basic shelter allowance has not gone. It's gone up exactly 1 time in approximately 30 years, which is a disaster for New Yorkers, not just here, but all around the state that are looking for affordable housing. We must do better. Putting people in hotels is a disaster for families, and it's especially a disaster for young children. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. And we are seeing numbers growing to levels that we have not seen in decades. So I'm here to support my colleagues and here also to work with the administration in any way that they think they can improve this situation. Thank you.
Now, if anyone from the press has questions,